Hi, I'm Ethan Schoonover, and this is a test video. It's not really a demo video, but I might throw it up on YouTube or Twitter. Might be interesting for folks. So this is a test of my current setup for running role-playing games online, and I'm gonna show you a couple things that I have going on here. Let me unlock my iPad, and let's see. We're gonna switch over to an overhead view, and you can see what I've got in front of me right now. In fact, maybe what I'll do is, so I just brought up on my iPad a picture of this table from a different angle that I took earlier. So I'm going to zoom into that. What I'm doing here, as I'm switching these different views, is I'm using this ATEM Mini Pro. It's a HDMI switcher. It takes both video and audio signals and then mixes them. So I can actually do this mixing on the Microsoft Surface as well. So you can see, let me queue up a different input, and you can see as I move the slider up, it switches over to that other input. So there's a lot of different ways you can use this ATEM Mini Pro. I'm not going to talk about all those, but what I will say, so I can click on these buttons up here to change the view, or I can click on the hardware buttons. So I'll mostly do the hardware buttons. And I can even bring up, say, like a picture-in-picture. Oops. There we go. So I can move that around. We'll move it up there, I guess. So as I'm looking at this view here, I have on this iPad a photo. I'll tuck this little cable away here. And I'm looking at this Fujifilm X-T3, and that's the camera that's picking me up. So, hello, Fujifilm. And that I've got assigned to input number 1. Now, input number 2 is overhead. You can't quite see it in this photo, but above me, floating above the table, there is an old Canon video camera that I have, camcorder. And then input number 3 is the iPad, so you can see that as I zoom in and out on this, whatever I'm doing on there is output here. And then finally, input number 4 is this right here, is the Microsoft Surface. So let's talk a little bit about each one of those. Let's go over to that. So on the Microsoft Surface, I have a Photoshop open, and I have a map open in Photoshop. And I've talked a little bit about this before, but this is sort of a green screen effect that I'm using for Fog of War, and I'm able to like very conveniently and easily pan around on this map. And as I do that, you can see that I'm moving and panning around here. I can then bring up my pen and, oops, start to erase like this. And as I erase, and I can draw, we'll go back and look at the actual live view. So you can see I'm erasing. And as I erase the green, and as I pan around, like this, I can erase this hallway. The players are just going to see the part that I'm erasing. Okay, so I'm not going to go into that anymore. That's the chroma key Fog of War effect. But the cool thing is just sort of this whole setup, because it's very intuitive. And I'll just walk you through how I have it wired up. So I have the iPad here. It's pumping out HDMI via this dongle. Let me bring up my picture-in-picture again. There we go. So this dongle right here is just a Cable Matters HDMI dongle. It takes power input, HDMI output, so it's a single cable connect here, charges the iPad, and takes out the video signal. Same for the Microsoft Surface, power input here, HDMI output here, and then that goes over to this Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro. Now the cool thing is, oops, what's going on there? Hello. Okay, so the cool thing is that this input back to the Surface is basically a webcam view of whatever the output from the ATEM Mini Pro is. So I'll show you, like, I've got in front of me, I've got this little monitor hooked up, that's sitting on the table next to the microphone. That's hooked up to the ATEM Mini Pro. Whatever I see on that monitor can also be output as a webcam view back into the Microsoft Surface. So the Microsoft Surface is outputting this map view, but it's also taking in a webcam view. Normally it would be outputting that into like Zoom or Discord or what have you. So basically this turns into like a very simple way for me to do like very complicated, or otherwise it would be complicated, screen mixing, screen sharing between multiple devices that I have sitting in front of me. I love the form factor of the Surface and the iPad in front of me, because this really turns into sort of like a very natural, intuitive kind of DM screen, like a high-tech DM screen. And oh, one of the things I wanted to demonstrate here is, let's bring up my view again, my little picture-in-picture, is if I'm in Photos, like I am right now, and I click on one of these, let's go into this album. I have this album set up of NPCs and environments and things like that. And so I can switch over to that, and I can then show the players whatever I want to. And you notice that on the iPad, I still have all of the UI around Photos. This is Apple Photos. So I have like the, it says the header, it says the date of this album and all that kind of stuff. That does not show up on the output. So the output is this very clean output. I can zoom in and out. And I can, if I wanted to, I could even like say go over here, and then I could zoom in. Let me bring up my picture-in-picture again. I could zoom in, and then I could say mark up this photo. And now you see the UI a little bit, but that's okay. So let's see, what are we gonna do? Oops, I'm using the Microsoft Surface Pen on the iPad. That's not gonna work. So we'll use this right here and switch over. So just an easy way for me to like move things around and mark up what I want to. We'll get out of that, cancel out of that, discard changes, go back here. So that's the setup. I think it's pretty slick. I like having these kind of things. Like it is like a high-tech DM screen in front of me, and plenty of room on the table for me to have things like, an adventure or notes or whatever else I need. Oh, the other nice thing is, let me talk a little bit about how this works real briefly. So this is just, again, in Photoshop, Chroma Key Fog of War, I've got a map layer, I've got a green layer on top of it, and then that prevents the players from seeing anything that is green. What's neat about this is, let me attach the keyboard, a little bit easier for me to use the computer then. All right, so I've got this set up in, oops, are we hooked up? Come on, Microsoft Surface, come back to life. There we are. Okay, so let's go over to this guy right here. So this is OBS. So in OBS, I'm capturing Photoshop, and I'm applying the chroma key effect. And what you do is, when you have this extra HDMI output, in OBS, you can just right-click on this and say full screen projector. I know you can't see all this, but on the main view, you right-click on the main view and choose full screen projector preview, and you just choose the HDMI output that you have the Blackmagic hooked up to. So it shows up on my computer here as BMD HDMI, has a special name. So that's that, and I'll show you what that looks like. Actually, you can see this is it's just a window. And when it's full screened like that, then I can go back I'm in Photoshop now, and the output here, and then I'm panning around and zooming in and out. So panning around, zooming in and out. So that's that. I don't know, is this interesting? I think it's pretty cool. It's kind of a high-tech DM screen setup, and this has been a good test for me. Hopefully this works. I've been recording all this on the Blackmagic. It automatically records to thumb drive. So if I hit this, it's going to stop, and I will then upload this to, I don't know, some service or other. So see you later.